ahead and get started. For those of you who are able to join us live, we are so glad to have you here today with us. And for those of you watching us on our YouTube channel, we welcome you and hope that you'll someday be able to join us on our live program. So I want to quickly introduce myself. I'm Katie Shuck at the CybHER program out of Dakota State University in Madison, South Dakota. We hope you'll check us out on our website at cybher.org. I also have with me Kanthi Narakonda, who is CybHER's Chief of Strategy, and she is going to be facilitating our Q&A later on in the program. We also have one of CybHER's founders, Dr. Ashley Podorotsky, who is currently the Interim Vice President of Research and Economic Development at Dakota State University, as well as the Associate Dean of the Beacom College of Computer and Cyber Sciences. It's always a mouthful to get that out. And as well as an Associate Professor of Information Assurance and Forensics. She has a really long title, but she does so much for CybHER, and we can't thank her enough for founding this, along with her cohort, Dr. Pam Rowland, who's unable to join us today. But we're all here for one person today, and we are so excited to have her. I cannot wait to hear because she is doing so much in cybersecurity and especially in security awareness. So I want to introduce Steffanie Schilling, who is a SANS cybersecurity difference maker and innovator, as well as a cybersecurity awareness program manager. She brings together human behavior with the technical elements of information security, and she also believes in the power of diversity to solving the ever-growing skills gap that we have here in cybersecurity. And the best thing I love about what she says is that she believes that diversity drives innovation. And we know that to be so true. So without further ado, I am going to hand this over to Steffanie to tell us about who she is and what she does.
Absolutely. Thank you, Katie. Thank you so much for CybHER having me be here. I'm so excited because I believe so much in the mission of what you're doing. Diversity encompasses so many things, and empowering both women and girls is so important. And honestly, for anyone who's on this call, we need you. There's this massive skill gap in cybersecurity, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work when you're trying to only recruit from a very small portion of your population, not only in terms of numbers, but also in terms of ideas and experiences and backgrounds, right? Like the cybersecurity and the cybercrime industry, as we know, is growing every year. Every year is a record-breaking year. And so if you are here, I am so happy that you are interested in cybersecurity, and I hope that we can continue the conversation after this. As Katie said, I am in the security awareness side of information security. So a little bit about me is I'm not your average cyber techie. While I do have my fair share of nerdom and tech background, which I wear very, very proudly, I have a degree in marketing with a business, that's a business degree, as well as a degree in communications with a focus in organizational communications from my alma mater, Miami University. Love and honor at its finest. That's a really long way of saying is that my career has been spent in the realm of communicating and engaging with people. I'm a marketing communication professional that actually ended up falling into cybersecurity. I was helping the IT department of a major biomedical manufacturer open the black box of what IT is and communicate to all of our different business colleagues and partners to help drive forth innovation and streamlining business strategies. And one day our CISO came up to me and he was like, hey, I have to talk to people and people like talking to you. And I was like, what does that even mean? And he invited me to tag along to a conference. I'm sorry, not to a conference, to a training that he was giving. And I tagged along to a training that he was giving. And afterwards, we went back to his office and he was like, what do you think? And he told me what the need was in his cybersecurity program and security awareness. So if you are unaware, cybersecurity encompasses a lot of things, right? A lot of times we think of, that hacker who's like in a dark basement with the glow of his computer on his face, but that's just one small part of cybersecurity, whether you are helping to create safe code, whether you are helping to prepare networks. I deal with the people, processes, and communication side of cybersecurity. So the well-known equation for risk management and how we control and try to manage the risk that we're all facing is technology, processes, and people. For a long time, the cybersecurity industry maybe accidentally skimped on the people side of things, right? We all love new toys, we all love technology. And so I'm coming into play where I have my background in the social sciences. I'm a people scientist. I communicate and I know behavior change. That's what I do for a living. And coming in to help keep our organizations and our people, and honestly, our communities in our nation safer through helping mitigate the risk that people pose to us. I do not know if you are familiar with the Verizon DBIR. It's this massive report that they released every year. Well, I think for the past 13 years, it might be 18. Katie Conti, if you know the answer off the top of your head, feel free to chime in. But it came back once again after they take in all this information of breaches and organizations from around the world, that the top ways that bad guys get into our organizations are actually through human-centric means. What does that mean? It means that 99% of cyber attacks and breaches actually have to be activated by one of us. And a lot of times they're mistakes. They're people who don't know better, or we're in a rush and we're like, oh, well, I needed this. Oh, thank you. The Verizon DBIR started in 2008. Perfect. And so that's where I come into play, is that I come in and I help to educate and raise awareness and change behaviors so we can all increase our cyber safe behavior online. And the cool part is that not only does this help keep our organizations safe, that it also actually helps keep us safer as people. About a third of adults in the United States have had their identity stolen. That number, like we said, is just ticking up. And a lot of that is actually tied to cybercrime. So if we think about protecting our families, if we think about protecting ourselves and our finances, think about how much data is in your email. It's kind of crazy when we see how much email compromises and attacks going after those credentials are there. By credentials, I mean your username and your password, whether it's corporate or whether it's personal. Like I used to, now it's pandemic time, but I used to do a lot of traveling. I have my passport. I have a copy of my passport in my email. So that way, if I'm losing it, because newsflash, I also have ADHD, I'm really, really good at accidentally putting things down. And if I can't find my passport, then I have a backup that I can actually prove who I say I am. And I feel comfortable saying this now, where I have a friend who helps do security awareness presentations for me sometimes with the organizations I'm in, who's in the FBI, and he said that credentials are one of the most top attacks that we see, and it's only going up because of that personal information we have, but also when we're in our organizations, how if you take over my email, not only do you have access to act like me, I can send you all emails and you'll be like, oh, hey, that's cybersecurity Steffanie, when it's not. It's one of the bad guys who has gotten really smart and has actually inserted rules in my email. So you can't even tell that it's me. If you're being good and you send an email back saying, oh, hey, Steffanie, is that you? A rule can automate and send an email back to you pretending that it's me. And I can say, oh yeah, that's totally fine. Please click on that dangerous link. Don't do that. But even then, that these rules will go through and delete any form or trail that we had communication. So it's harder to find. And so I come into play and I help keep people safe by driving that awareness and behavior change. And I evidently am kind of good at it, because even though I'm a relative newcomer to the field, I had the privilege of this last year being named as a difference maker and an innovator in cybersecurity, because of how passionate I believe that thank you. I know, I was really excited. There's also a funny story about that, because of how passionately though I believe of pairing the social sciences, the evidence-based data and research that we know about the human condition and how we act with the technical, and pairing those together to help keep us safer. Yeah. I feel like that was a lot. I'm actually happy to take questions anytime throughout. We can also save them through towards the end. It's really up to CompTia how she feels is best to chime in.
Sure. Actually, I have one question, like my own question for you. In your bio, it says that you mentioned something about a unique ability to marry a keen understanding of human behavior with the technical elements. And I was wondering, how do you do that? Or what does that encompass?
So I view myself as a bit of a translator. There's something that's interesting when you just, I'm sure that if we look at if we look at someone in our life who knows a lot about one area and we talk to them, they can very quickly get over our head, right? And so I feel like I'm often that translator that's able to swim in the technology and understand what is happening in the technical world from cybersecurity and take out the bits and pieces and to morph them into language that is easier for all of us to consume. Like my sister has her degree in biochem. She does things that are really smart and really interesting. And when she talks to me sometimes, I'm like, I have no idea what you do. But she's been able to take the time to slow down and to help me understand what she does. And so part of what I do is I do that from a training perspective, a communications perspective, because one of the best things that you can do is keep yourself aware of all the attacks out there. So if someone goes ahead and tries to take advantage of you or your family or your parents or your grandparents, you know how to best deal with it. But also if you know that something's really big, like cyber attack going on, you can go, oh, hold on, wait a second. I was so proud. One of my friends, she's a professor at a university, Baldwin Wallace, and she sent me an email too saying the first one she fell for a simulated fish. And the second one, she didn't though, because she's like, I remember our conversation and she's like, no, what would Steffanie do? And she typed it into Google. She saw that this was a common attack. It was from Apple and she didn't actually click and fall on, click on the link and fall for the attack.
Oh, I'm so glad, because a lot of the times we see emails and we're like, oh, maybe this isn't helpful. Maybe it's informational. Click on it and bad stuff. But
yeah, I mean, it's so interesting though, because I think it's really easy for us to say, don't click on that link, or don't go ahead and enter your credentials, or to create strong passwords. But what does that really mean, right? A lot of us use our email, whether we're talking to our friends or our family or for our jobs. And there are times where we actually need something. Don't download that attachment. But what if downloading attachments is part of my job, right? And so understanding more about human behavior and giving you the tools to better keep yourself safe, I think really goes a long way to empower you. And understanding as well that like, we're all in this together. I think it's easy for a lot of individuals when they have deep knowledge of something to say, well, you should have known better, but how should you know better if I don't teach you, right? I can't go to Calc 2 before I've done algebra. And so helping us to go ahead and understand what those steps are so we can protect ourselves against the really, really big attacks. So the attacks that are done by people who are pros. This is their full-time job. They're part of organized crime. This is how they make their living. Those attacks are going to be much harder to spot than the people who, you know, are just either new to this, or maybe they're amateurs, or maybe they bought a phishing attack off the dark web. It is possible to do that and then need help implementing it by calling the bad guys like service desk, right? And so understanding how we can actually protect ourselves and learn is what I do.
also, to understand that something is actually a legitimate email, maybe someone was typing in a really fast manner, maybe they were in a hurry and they have a lot of spelling errors and stuff. So how do you understand that that in fact is a legitimate email from your colleague or a friend, as opposed to a phishing email? I think that gets a little tricky to understand.
It absolutely can. I think that it's one of those things to know that it gets easier the more you practice, right? And the more you talk about it actually helps keep us safe too. This is something that I started doing in my job, and that at one point I looked up at my wonderful partner and I went, oh, there's a major phishing attack going around. Your parents have fallen for things like this before and have given away thousands of dollars of money. So let's go ahead and let's let them know. Let's let them know to be safer. One of the things that I do to personally protect myself and that I recommend is I actually don't click on links in email. That sounds so silly, but I legitimately do not. Where if someone emails me something, for the most part, for my job, I don't need to click on those links. If I get a personal email from Gmail or from Amazon or from my bank, I actually don't click on those links either, because in case they're a phishing attack, I can open a browser and type in where I know I need to go to be sure I'm getting to where I actually want to go, versus someone getting in the middle and trying to take advantage of me not paying attention. And so it's really interesting because we talk about these cyber attacks where people are going after the hackers, the scammers are going after people more and more. Part of that is because we've done such a wonderful job with technology. We have a lot of technology that has kept us safe. Part of that also is because the cybersecurity industry, I think, has left behind their people a little bit. So when we talk about that cyber risk mitigation equation, the technology, processes, and people, when you spend several decades plus focusing on technologies and accidentally leave people behind, of course, bad things are going to happen. Like, it's not something that I talk about, where I wouldn't take a computer from 10 years ago, not update it and plug it into the internet now and expect it not to be attacked.
True. Very true. You just have to play catch up until we are able to catch up to the technology, because like you said, we are behind. The human aspect of it is behind. So we need to play catch up until they're both kind of like at a balanced state.
Right. And honestly, one of the things that I want to absolutely emphasize, first of all, I love my job because I get to deal with people. I don't get to deal with people. I get to happily interact with people, because I'm not someone who is happy behind my computer 24/7 and not talking to anyone. Working at home for the past 9 months, while in some manners has been freeing, has also been a little bit sad, because I'm like, oh, I have no one to talk to. But the cool part about the security awareness, which is part of what I do, it's the educating and the changing of behaviors into more cyber safe behaviors that we can incorporate in our daily lives and our work. It's going to be one of the next big things in cybersecurity. The organizations that are doing it now, or are thinking about doing it, are ahead of the curve, because they're looking at that data and realizing that people are being attacked more and more. And so if you are someone who is on this call and you're like, oh, but I'm not interested in coding, oh, but I'm not interested in figuring out computer networks and how to protect them, there's a lot of other places in cyber that we need you. That there's the processes, there's my job, security awareness, there's the compliance and regulation side, which is so important as well. And speaking about that, like the security awareness is starting to actually appear in more and more compliance and regulations. So not only do organizations have to attest and sign off on the fact that, yes, we have trained our people, it's no longer a compliance checkbox. So you can't say, oh, I talked to them once a year and they're safe. That's not how we learn, right? Like, if I gave you a quiz or a lesson and then I quizzed you right now, even if it was the simplest thing, if I come back in 364 days from now and say, oh, do you remember what we talked about? You would have no idea. And so it's recognizing how the human brain works and how we can go ahead and actually just make us all safer.
So you have a different background than cybersecurity, like your educational background is completely different from cybersecurity. So when you entered this field, what was the hardest thing that you've had to learn to get to where you are now?
You know what's funny? I don't know if I would say the hardest thing that I would have to learn is the technical. So I am someone who I like learning. I believe in the importance of lifelong learning. There is research saying that we learn every day, regardless of our age. a lot of times we don't often think of it as learning, right? Whether you're doing a new cooking technique, or whether you're learning how to go ahead and write better, or maybe you, like, I'm learning gardening right now, or it just snowed in Cleveland a couple of days ago. So like it actually changes the physical structure of our brain. It's kind of cool. I read a lot of neuroscience. But one of the things that I think that I have struggled with the most is feeling like I belonged and learn it. Like, so I've had to learn that I have something to say, and that my voice is important, and that my perspective is important. It's very hard to walk in a room. I'm just going to be honest, if we talk about the demographics of the cybersecurity industry, it is mostly white, middle-aged men. I'm none of those things. I don't think I'm middle-aged yet, but but right now I am none of those things. And it's very, it can be very isolating to walk into a room and not only to not see a reflection of yourself, but then to trust that you have a right to be there. And so it's been a process of me finding some of the best advice that I've ever received. Her name is Emily. She's a longtime individual in cybersecurity, because when I realized I started feeling this way, I started to seek out allies. I started to seek out a network that could help me not only persist in cyber, but also thrive. And Emily told me such a beautiful thing is she said, be like water. You're going to find people who don't believe that you should be here. You're going to find people who try to put false barriers in your way. Flow around them and find the people who want you here, who want to celebrate, who want to raise your voice up and know that you have a place here and that you can overcome. She's seriously beautiful, and that has guided me in the past like 4 or 5 years of my own cybersecurity journey.
I love that. Be like water. I love that, honestly, because it is true. It's difficult to relate to something when you don't see yourself reflected in another individual, and especially in this field where it can be really, really technical. I mean, if you know you have the skill, or even if you know you have the skill, it becomes a little challenging to raise your voice and speak up when you don't see another person that can that you can relate to.
Absolutely. And there's so much research to back that and what you're saying. So when I talk about the social sciences, I'm talking about the science of people. So like we can talk about psychology, we can talk about communications, we can talk about education, anthropology, political science, right? Everything that looks at how people function, I would say in different realms or in different parts of our lives. And there's a lot of research to back that up, is that we even take unconscious signals, even if no one is acting outright aggressive to us or engaging in microaggressions, which are those little behaviors. You know when you have a frenemy who says something, but it's a backhanded compliment, and you're like, you did not actually mean that in a nice way. We can experience those microaggressions for all parts of our identity, whether we are talking about our age, our sex, our sexual orientation, I am neurodivergent, right? We can talk about ethnicity and ability. There's a lot of ways that, in small ways, that people can say, oh, you're not wanted here, or you shouldn't be here. But even in the absence of that, when we look around and we don't see ourselves, we still go, oh, this is not a place for me, and I don't know if I should be here. And so overcoming that, I think, is really important to know that, like I said earlier, man, we need all the help that we can get. Like, we are talking about worldwide millions of jobs that can't be filled because there's not enough of people across the entire band of cybersecurity, whether you are on the defensive side and super technical, or the offensive, and the offensive side, which is also going to be super technical, to more of the soft skills and the policy and the regulation and compliance that I also bring into play.
So, what's the coolest thing that you've ever done? It could be related to the cybersecurity work that you do.
Say that it can be pardon?
The Cybersecurity Awareness Program work that you do. What's the coolest thing you've ever done?
Okay, so I have, so the two coolest things, one of them is tied to that beautiful industry award that I won the award itself was a nice confirmation, because when I doing security awareness well and educating and engaging well in cybersecurity, I still feel like is fairly new. And so when I came to it 3.5, 4 years ago, I felt like I was almost talking to myself in a dark room, because the cyber people surround me had worthy and beautiful skills, right? They were more technical focused, but I was dealing with the people side of things. And so I was bringing all the research and knowledge that I knew to bear. And that award, I believe I actually won because I was able to show a measurable difference in the amount of reporting and cyber attacks that we were seeing. So not only was our reporting way up, which is important for the cybersecurity team to know if there's anything bad going on, but I was able to show a decrease in the amount that we were being phished by the 100 percentiles. So I mean, like literally made our company 220 plus percentage wise safer because of the work that I was doing. So that was really cool to see a tangible impact. It's one of the things I think that people in security awareness need to be more intentional about with their technical folk, is getting together and showing measurable impacts and having those hard numbers to back out anything that you're doing. Otherwise, you're kind of just guessing the dark. I'm very data driven, but also on a personal level, there was an individual. So I do simulated phishing campaigns at my job. It serves, in my opinion, as like a mini test, and we have research to show that if you do them enough over time and frequently enough, that it actually can help prepare your colleagues and your coworkers for the real deal. So I would much rather you fall for a fake fish that cybersecurity Steffanie sent you than a real fish from one of these bad actors, right? And there was this woman at my job that, I mean, she failed 6 in a row. My team knew her because I started to refer to her as that poor woman, because I was so confused and she was really struggling to get them. And one of the things that I believe in is connecting with the people around you. And so I talk on the phone a lot when I have questions or concerns about the programs, because there's a lot of uncertainty or unknowing around what I do. And I picked up the phone one day and I just called her. We had a conversation. She was new to the company. She was trying to be super responsive to her colleagues. She didn't want to get in trouble if in case of that she was delayed. And so she was just clicking on things indiscriminately. And like we talked about, most cyber attacks are human activated. And if someone has access to your email, not only can they send things as you, they can potentially have access to other parts of your network and your systems, depending on how your sign-in is worked. People are bad with passwords. We like to reuse the same password. So even if I can't use technology to get over, I might just be able to put in your password again and you're using it to get access. And so I just talked to her, had a conversation, found out what was going on, and I cheered every month for the next 7 months because she never appeared on my list again. And so like I was so happy for her, but I also believed it showed the power, because a lot of our senior management want to see tangible improvement. Like, this world can be scary and it can be disempowering if you let it. If we talk about the dangers and not balancing it out with how we can protect ourselves, right? And so people want to hold on to things and they want to punish people for making genuine mistakes. And so for me, she's one of the greatest examples that I have of how that human touch and how understanding and recognizing another's humanity can actually go a long way in helping to make not only her safer, but us as a community, as an organization safer. I literally cheered every time I check my reports on a monthly basis. I would look for her name. When I wouldn't see her, I'd be like, yes, all because of a 20-minute conversation.
I think we lose some of that sympathizing or empathizing along the way somewhere along, we just forget, or we don't think of it necessarily when someone makes a mistake. And I think that's also one of the factors that most people are really so much under pressure all the time. So what you just said, you had a nice conversation with her, you made her understand, you spoke to her in a way that she was able to understand what she was doing. And I think that's really, really important. to do, because most of the time we just face judgment or worse, maybe even reprimanded for making a mistake.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I did for my last position is that we had I ran a company-wide contest called Fish Our CIO, and all my 17,000 plus colleagues could send in a mock fish of their creation. And then I took those and used our software to actually fish our IT department. And if you fish the CIO, you got an extra kudos, like if you actually tricked him. But I mean, it goes to show also, and whoever won the contest was whoever fooled the most IT people, right? So we are talking about some of our most technically minded, computer savvy people in an entire organization who are still falling for these attacks. Probably, well, not probably, I've seen, at that point I saw the data, it's still in lesser numbers than other people in our organizations would have fallen for them. But I think it speaks to how cyber criminals weaponize our psychology. Literally, they weaponize human nature against us. Like one of them was an individual who had retired, and then his wife was throwing him a retirement party, and we all got it. And he was beloved. He had worked at the company for 30 plus years. Everyone's like, oh, I want to go to Rick's retirement party, click, and it was a fish, right? And so I know, it was so sneaky. Another was taking what our template looks like for some communications and morphing it, and that also got IT people. And so recognizing that these, first of all, the cyber criminals are really good at their job. Second of all, they literally use how we think and how we move through the world against us, but also realizing that we can do a lot to prevent that. But mistakes happen, right? I think on a long enough timeline, we're all going to make a mistake because we're busy and we're distracted, or we're trying to answer emails, or we're trying to be responsive to our colleagues or to our bosses, and like, it's just going to happen. So not only is it important to recognize what you can do ahead of time to try not to fall prey, but also like to know the second that you know that you made a mistake, pick up the phone, call the service desk, call your cyber team, so they can take whatever actions they can do to best defend themselves. And if it's your own stuff and you gave up your password, this is my little bit. Close any active session that you have for that account. So right now I have Google Chrome open on this laptop, my other laptop, and my phone. If I gave up my password, I would close out of all of those, sign out, then I would go change my password, because hopefully you can also view in settings and you can kick people out of that active session too. So I would close out, kick anyone out of those active sessions, change my password so I can regain control back over my account. So people can't lurk in my email and impersonate as me or send out malware or attack other individuals with my information.
Thank
That is
you.
all.
That was sorry, Katie. I was gonna say your work sounds so engaging. I love it. I absolutely love it.
It's really fun. I am someone who both loves technology, so it's cool because I get excited when I get the new cyber toys where I'm like, ooh, what can I learn about this? But I also love our community and I love people, and so helping people be safe and make an actual difference in their lives is really meaningful to me as well.
Good. Well, we are so grateful that you were able to join us today and help us to show these young ladies what they can be if they choose to go on this path of cybersecurity. And I definitely hope that they do. I am going to launch a poll here for our attendees to fill out, just so we know a little bit more about them. And I did want to just point or repeat something that you said early on too, and I wrote it down, although I shouldn't need to. You made the comment that your friend said, "What would Steffanie do?" And I think that that is so awesome, because every girl, every participant hearing these words should hopefully someday be that person that you have a friend coming to you saying, what would I do? Or what would my friend do? And insert your own name there. So that was really awesome. I do want to remind everybody, though, that we do have these every Wednesday from 4 to 4:30 Central Time. So you can always go to our website at cyber.org/cyber-conversations and find out who our next or our upcoming speakers are. Next week, you won't want to miss. We have Caitlin Bestenheider joining us, who is a senior information security analyst at Tavora, and she is also the chief player ambassador for the National Cyber League. And with the National Cyber League, you can find her as Crypto Kate or her dog Privacy Pupper online. And both of them, I believe, will be joining us next week. So if you like dogs, you'll want to come meet Caitlin as well. But also, please continue to follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel where this conversation will be posted by Friday. And you can view all of our previous conversations there as well. We're so thankful, Steffanie, for you joining us and sharing all of your wisdom and your words. We hope to expand diversity, and we thank those attendees joining us and those watching this recording. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much for having me. And I seriously, if you're watching this either now or later, we need you. Cybersecurity needs so many people on the technical side. If you're in the design side of things, if you're a graphic designer, or if you deal with communications or marketing or people, like there's so many. There's a space for everyone in cyber, and I hope you'll join us. Come be our friends. Come be our friends.
We're a great group. Okay, have a great night, everyone.